guys, and welcome to Odds Premier League Match Day 14. And let's say hello to Tom Rennie. Hello, Tom.
Hello, how are you? All right?
I'm fine, and you?
Oh, I'm doing very, very well. I spent yesterday for like 10 hours chasing my child around a wedding, so I'm very tired and my feet are sore, but I'm ready to do some predictions.
Good. I was very happy seeing how Barcelona was kicked out of the Champions League. So we both had a very good day yesterday on Thursday. But now it's time to analyze the Premier League. So guys, comment the video with us, telling your predictions as well. And don't forget to press the like and subscribe. And now let's go on with the show. With a new Spanish arrival to the Premier League. We will talk about him later, Unai Emery. But first, it's time for Leicester City, Man City. Good game to start, especially because Leicester, they are finally out of the relegation spots. 4-0 against Wolves away, 2-0 against Leeds. Clean sheets in the last 3 games, and that's a surprise coming from the Foxes, but now it's time to face Man City, and it's also kind of weird that they couldn't score in 3 games recently with all the talent up front. It's kind of strange for Man City, Tom.
Yeah, this is a very different game to what it would have been 4 weeks ago if we would have predicted it. Look, Leicester's biggest problem, you've highlighted it there. Everyone knew it. It was defence. 24 goals conceded after 12 games is poor. It was 24 goals conceded after 9 games. That's diabolical for a Premier League team. That's why they were bottom of the table. The sheer amount of goals they'd conceded. Offensively, they're one of the best teams in the league. I think they're the 5th top scorers going into this weekend with 21 goals scored. They've been right at the top of the scoring charts all season long. James Maddison has been outstanding. I picked him out to you most weeks when we've spoken about Leicester City. Jamie Vardy scoring again and being, well, Jamie Vardy against Wolverhampton Wanderers last time out. Harvey Barnes playing well, offensively strong, Leicester, but defensively poor. I haven't seen a great deal of Wout Face before he came into the club, the kind of David Luiz who's been stretched out by like a medieval stretching rack. But he seems to have brought something to this club. He seems to have brought a physical presence and an actual defender to the club that wasn't there previously. And I think there's a lot more cover for the Leicester defence in terms of Brendan Rodgers' formation than there was previously. He has gone to a place where a lot of managers quite rightly go, where they decide we've got to stop the bleeding here. And if we have 5 shots instead of 15 shots in a game, we're still likely to get something from the game. And I think you've seen that in matches against Crystal Palace, in the match against Leeds, and the Wolves game was a bit anomalous in that they only had 4 shots and they all went in, but still, it proves the point. It's less shots, but more quality on them. So Leicester been impressive, and I think that it's a good example as well of stick by a good manager. If you've got a good manager, stick by a good manager, and you may well get out of trouble. Look what's happened at Wolverhampton Wanderers. They sacked their manager and then went, oh, we've got to hire another one. Oh, okay. And that's still where they are. As for Manchester City, Erling Haaland's a big doubt for this weekend, having gone off with an injury/illness in the Champions League against Borussia Dortmund in midweek. Beyond that, it's pretty much as you were from the last Premier League round. They have struggled a little bit. The last couple of games. Why? I feel like at times Man City are changing so much. They change so much from game to game. And that maybe is how they're able to keep such a fit squad all season long, that sometimes it just kind of falls apart. Sometimes the new idea doesn't quite work. And I can see them going back to a more traditional team setup this weekend, a more traditional Pep Guardiola way of playing. And if Erling Haaland doesn't play, that might well do them a favour, because they might well go back to what they did sort of last season, where they'd maybe have Kevin De Bruyne as the furthest attacking player and try and dominate possession in a way that, you know, Haaland's been great, phenomenal, but you can't quite dominate possession from the front with Erling Haaland because he's not a great kind of footballer. He's a great striker, but he's not a great footballer in terms of holding the ball up, in terms of bringing other players into the game. He's not terrible, but he's not at the level of, you know, Sergio Aguero, or if you had Kevin De Bruyne up there in that position, or Raheem Sterling in previous years. So tricky game, this one. Really, really interesting game. I would not discount the draw market, especially at 6.5. I wouldn't discount it because I can see Leicester scoring. I think Leicester will score in this game. I wouldn't go Leicester win, even though it's 11-1, because it's Man City, and I'm not brave enough ever to bet against Man City to win. But I certainly think there's a possibility here of looking at the double chance market, draw a Man City. That might lift your Man City odds a little bit than the 1.3 we've currently got. But I'd be looking at Man City win it, both teams score, maybe even Leicester City score the first goal, and City come from behind to win this game. I think it'll be good. I think it'll be close, but just shade for City.
Well, we have some juicy odds. Double chance for Leicester is 4 if you are brave enough to back this, and both teams to score. That seems very likely. 1.87. Leicester, by the way, you mentioned it, they are the 6th top scorer in the competition by team. 21 goals scored, 36 Man City. And as we can see here, Abedi, both teams to score. Be careful. This is the early kickoff. There are always surprises, as we can see in the comments. But we like right now Leicester City. Let's continue. Bournemouth, Tottenham. The week was not that good for the Spurs in travel in the Champions League because they could only draw against Sporting, and they have to go the following week to Marseille to win. And in the Premier League, back-to-back defeats at home against Newcastle, away in Old Trafford. Luckily, they are going to the south of England, Tom, against Bournemouth, that they are also coming from back-to-back defeats without scoring, West Ham and Southampton.
Yeah, I went to the Bournemouth game on Monday at London Stadium, and I thought Bournemouth were dreadful, like really dreadful. I think that they had a brilliant new manager bounce under Gary O'Neill, which does happen. Scott Parker left the club. Gary O'Neill has come in, and he got them playing some good football. They got some really surprise victories. I think their pride was hurt following the thrashing against Liverpool. I think the players upped their game, but in the end, in the Premier League, it's quality that counts, and frankly, Bournemouth don't have much of it. And I think that they are long past due to decide what they're doing in terms of a manager. I think they are going to wait until the World Cup. It's going to cost them points and cost them games. And I think this will be another one of them. They've got Neto, the goalkeeper, got injured on Monday. He's missing at least until after the World Cup. Dominic Solanke got injured and came off injured. He's really the only player of quality that they've got that's shown they can kind of be in the Premier League this year. Still no Brooks, still no Lloyd Kelly. It's just beyond Solanke, I don't see much there. I don't see much. Jefferson Lerma continues to be a liability in central midfield. They barely look threatening against West Ham on Monday, and I think this will be quite similar. For Tottenham, desperately disappointing performance-wise the last few weeks. And I think the reason is that Son is not playing anywhere near the quality that we know that he's got. I don't think there's anyone that can transition Tottenham from midfield to attack as good as Dejan Kulusevski, who remains injured. And Oliver Skipp, kind of pointless side-to-side passer. No Højbjerg recently. I think he should be back for this game, but brings drive and energy, but I think he's overperforming what his actual abilities are. Rodrigo Bentancur does a couple of good things, a couple of bad things. You know, I think his consistency isn't quite there from the back end of last season. And the defense is poor at the moment. Like Eric Dyer's playing poorly. Ben Davies consistently injured. Christian Romero, good defender, but he seems more concerned about kicking people than he is about defending. And Hugo Lloris will make 3 great saves and throw one in his own net. So there's all sorts of question marks about Tottenham right now. One wonders about the come down from the Champions League in midweek as well. But look, Bournemouth are poor. It's a perfect game away from home. Harry Kane, I think, has got 10 in 12. So back Harry Kane to score in this game. Back Tottenham to win and Harry Kane to score. Look at the shots market as well. Spurs don't have a great deal of shots, but when they do, it's Harry Kane that gets them. So there's various Kane markets here. Kane over 3 shots on target in this game is around 6-1. Kane to score and Tottenham to win might bring it up to over 2. And that makes it more interesting. You can pretty much guarantee Harry Kane to score most weeks at this moment in time. And Tottenham win without Bournemouth scoring. So I'd be looking, Bournemouth don't score, Tottenham to win, Kane the goal scorer of at least 1.
Boring game, I guess. No,
Yeah.
Tom? Most of the people say that this is going to be the most boring game at the weekend because we are not impressed right now by Tottenham or the way they are playing. So there you have also Tottenham to win 1.7 is not that bad against Bournemouth. Next game, Brentford Wolves. Also, we are not impressed about Wolves. You mentioned they sacked some weeks ago Bruno Lage, and the team is still dropping in the table. They lost 5 out of the last 6 games. The last one 4-0, remember, at home against Leicester, and they are going to Brentford. It's true that they lost to Aston Villa, but at home is a strong side, Brentford.
Yeah, you're right to pick that out. It's strange, isn't it? That Brentford at home, fantastic, some brilliant victories. They've beaten Brighton, they've beaten Manchester United, they thrashed Leeds, but away from home, I mean, they're not just losing, they're getting walloped by teams, Newcastle and Aston Villa most recently. At home in this particular game, I would imagine Brentford will come good again. 2.25 is quite nice just for Brentford to win this game. Double your money odds there. Triple if you put the right amount on. Injury-wise, nothing too significant to say in terms of Brentford, though Christian Norgard continues to be a big miss in midfield, I feel. But Ivan Toney, look at him to score in this game. Look at Brentford to score 2 goals or more in this game against a poor Wolverhampton Wanderers defence. And on that defence, on the whole team, really, like, it doesn't make a great deal of sense right now with Wolverhampton Wanderers. You know, they sacked Bruno Lage, which had to be done, right? He's not done a great job, Bruno Lage. He didn't do a great job, Bruno Lage. They obviously thought they were going to get Lopetegui. They obviously did. That didn't work out for personal reasons, I think, more than professional reasons for Lopetegui. But either way, he hasn't come. And then they've gone, right, what do we do now? And they decided to stick with Steve Davis until the end of the year, to at least Boxing Day, for the next 3 Premier League games. You saw in the game against Leicester, it's directionless. It's a listing ship. They're just shipping points right now. There's a lot of season to go after the World Cup. So no one should panic about their league position until, you know, at this point, until we get into the new year. But yeah, it doesn't make sense at the moment. I know they've got no striker. I know they've got no Jimenez. I know they've got no Kalidzic. I know Diego Costa looks knackered after 30 seconds. I get that. But teams play well without a striker. Or they could find a way to play for 70 minutes to get a golden straw and then bring on Costa for 20 minutes. I don't know. They're just such a nothing team at this moment in time. There's lots of great technical talent from some of these players. But even the players they brought in, like Guedes and Nunez, you look at them thinking, what do they do? What are they here for? Where are they meant to be playing? What was the idea about signing 2 almost identical players this summer for X amount of million when you don't know how to use them? Like, a total mess, Wolverhampton Wanderers. I expect a lot better in the new year. But until they decide what they're going to do, I think they're going to continue to lose all the way to the World Cup. So Brentford to win. Brentford will win without conceding a goal. I can't see Wolves adding to their paltry, pathetic 5 goals scored all season. So go Brentford. And I might even here, because I think Wolves are so bad, consider an Asian handicap. I might consider a minus 1.5, a 2-0, maybe even a minus 2.5. I think Brentford may well thrash Wolves this weekend.
And the odds are very good. Brentford to win 2.25. I think these are great odds. Also, our audience is going for Brentford, even if you want to be cautious. Black Adam, Brentford double chance. Of course, the odds are lower, but really good odds for Brentford. I'm not sure even Lopetegui will be a good fit. Would be a good fit for Wolves, but this is science fiction. He never came. He never went to Wolves. I'm not a big fan of Lopetegui, I have to say. Neither is Alvaro.
Fair enough.
Next game, Tom, Brighton, Chelsea. If we have a comment here, Brentford is consistently inconsistent. We have Abedi saying that, which is a great sentence. We can say that Chelsea is really consistent under Potter, another victory in the Champions League, and it's not easy to win in Salzburg. But the last 2 games in the Premier League were draws. Remember, against Man United and against Brentford. Good time to go to Brighton and win, I guess, for Chelsea.
Yes, this is not the Brighton of the first few weeks of the season under the now Chelsea manager Graham Potter. I think that they are struggling to work out what the new manager wants. They are struggling to adapt to whatever it is that he is trying to get them to do. They are moving away from the Graham Potter ultra possession style and trying to be a bit more cut and thrust. But not sure the players are quite capable of it. And so that goes to 5 games without victory. I thought the performance in the game on Wednesday or Tuesday night last week against Nottingham Forest at home, the more indicative game as opposed to the City game away, it was so flat and so uninspired. And once they'd missed a couple of chances, like they always do, it was a bit like, oof, we're not going to score here. They look like a team that lack belief. This is not the team of Graham Potter. They're still defensively solid. Still a big fan of Lewis Dunk and Adam Webster and Joel Veltman. I think Robert Sanchez, look, he's still a better midfielder than he is goalkeeper, but he's made some terrific saves in recent times. I think he's certainly better than I've given him credit for previously, and still quite solid in midfield with Alexis McAllister and the like. But Danny Welbeck as the only striker at the club, it ain't going to work now. You've got to bring a striker in or change the way you play, put a second striker up there, get Leandro Trossard in more attacking positions because he's the only one who seems to be able to shoot straight. At the moment, it's all over the place with Brighton. I think it's a terrible game for them. I wonder what kind of reception Graham Potter will get as a side note, considering that he walked out on the club and sent a really saccharine open letter talking to Brighton fans about just what a stepping stone they've been to his career. Like, that would sicken me if I was a Brighton fan. So I hope he gets booed, to be honest. I hope he gets booed vociferously by the Brighton fans all game long. The Chelsea team that he's taken over, they've not lost a game yet, but I wouldn't say they've been particularly impressive. Man United should have won last week. Never mind, just got a draw in the last second from Casemiro's header. United were significantly better in all departments than Chelsea last week. Potter had to make that mid-first half change just to get them back in the game. Kovacic coming on. Look, I think as well in midweek, it's worth noting in the Champions League, it was a very Graham Potter match. 70% possession, but didn't score many goals. It was trademark Potter. So I think this game is going to be a little like the Crystal Palace game recently at Selhurst Park, which was 1-1 until the final few seconds when Conor Gallagher popped one in the top corner. I think it's going to be quite similar to that. I'd actually go quite low scoring here. I can see this being a 0-0 like the Brentford game or a 1-0 victory just favouring Chelsea. I don't think Brighton are going to score. I'm pretty confident Brighton aren't going to score. So I'd be looking here on recent form, recent away performances for Chelsea. 2 wins in a row, just 1 goal scored in the league. And even when they've won it tight away. Chelsea win under 2.5 goals in the game. I might even be tempted to under 1.5. That'd be 0-0 or 1-0. But I just think Chelsea are going to shade it. So just go for Chelsea in a low scoring, not particularly thrilling. Don't expect many shots. But maybe expect Chelsea to have 70% possession and Potter ball to get booed at the Amex for the first time.
Look what a piece of art our team has produced for our social media. Potter saying, I'm back.
He's not thrilling enough to be the Terminator, is he? He's like a really boring Terminator. He's like Rise of the Machines. Don't compare him to like Judgment Day. He's more low-level Terminator.
Comparing anyone to Schwarzenegger, you are going to end up losing.
Yes, especially with your shirt off.
Well, we have Garrick saying that these Chelsea are weird to watch, always get the result, but never look dominant. Many people agree here also, like going for Chelsea, but they are not that convinced in the way they are playing. But Chelsea are getting the results, and to be honest, these odds are very high, in my opinion. 2.55. Imagine, Tom, that you get more money if you bet on Chelsea beating Brighton than on Crystal Palace beating Southampton, because the odds for Palace to win only 2.01 at home, and they are coming from a defeat against Everton 3-0. It's true that they won the last 2 at Selhurst Park against Wolves and Leeds. We can say that Southampton is kind of the same team, but they've been competitive lately, Southampton. They've bounced back. Another team that was about to be sacked, and still we have Hasenhalt.
I do not get the Palace odds. I've got to tell you, I don't understand them. They were around 1.9 this morning, 1.8 this morning before we recorded. And they've gone up a little bit, but I'm a bit baffled, to be honest. Look, they've been okay at home. Of course they have. They've got some decent wins, some decent performances. They beat Wolves, as you mentioned. They beat Leeds, as you mentioned. They were beaten at home by Chelsea just about. Went to Leicester and got that terrible draw, but they were just thrashed against Everton. And, the Palace question remains the same. I don't really think Patrick Vieira's brought a lot to Palace. I think he's taken some of the old solidity and given them a bit more freedom, but I don't really, at this moment in time, see that he's brought a great deal to them. At home, they are mid-table in terms of results, 3 wins from 6. They don't score a great deal of goals. All the strikers continue to be a bit average. And if Wilfried Zaha and Aberi Eze don't do it, then there ain't going to be a goal today. So, I'm really surprised by these odds, actually. I mean, that's not touchable for me in terms of bets this weekend. Though, most of the star players, if not all the star players, should be fit. In terms of Southampton, they picked up some good results recently. Really impressive draw against West Ham. They had to hold on for dear life in that game. Same against Arsenal, though I think Arsenal didn't quite have the goal threat West Ham had that day. And the win against Bournemouth was impressive because it was an important game for two teams who are going to be in the bottom 6. They're close to both being in the bottom 6 at this moment in time. They will become the end of the season. That could prove a pivotal result in the campaign of Southampton. So I think it's a really, really good result for them. In terms of injuries, there's 1 or 2 out, but it's worth noting Bella Kotchap continues to be missing. He's the centre-half that's really impressed this season. And Carl Walker-Peters plays most games at fullback, and he's missing too. So half the Southampton defence is now missing in this game. In terms of odds, look, I think the draw market at 3.5 is quite interesting. I'd certainly be going under 2.5 goals in this game. I wouldn't pick for Southampton even at 4-1. That continues to rise. I wouldn't bet on Southampton at the moment, despite the fact they're on another one of their runs. It screams draw. It screams 1-1 draw. It screams under 2.5. Each team score, draw, and that's what I'm going to go with.
It looks good. Actually, the draw, some people here are skipping this game, going double chance. Michael is telling double chance or the draw. The draw sounds good. And probably it's going to be another boring game for Corello, and I kind of agree. Much more interesting, in my opinion, is the next one, Newcastle, Aston Villa, because we have Newcastle in the Champions League spots. It will be nice to see Newcastle back in the Champions League, by the way, in my opinion. And we have Aston Villa with Unai Emery. He was this close last season to sign for Newcastle. At the end, he rejected the offer. He stayed in Villarreal. He carried the team towards the semi-final of the Champions League, and now he moved to Aston Villa. Massive push, I guess, for the Aston Villa project, and they are coming from a victory 4-0 against Brentford, but it's going to be a tough debut for Emery in Newcastle.
Yeah, look, Newcastle have been impressive. I worked on the Tottenham game last weekend, and I thought they were outstanding. Bruno Guimaraes looks incredible. Looks like total package central midfielder, considering as well he hadn't slept for 2 days because his partner had just given birth. Somewhat incredible. When my wife had our first baby, I drove to the hospital in the wrong shoes. I was in such a daze. So, left on the right foot, right on the left foot. So, it's incredible. He went out and was the best player on the field against Tottenham Hotspur. Also, defensively, real strong at the moment. Dan Burns, Sven Botman, Fabian Schär, and especially Kieran Trippier look fantastic. Nick Pope's a good signing. Got a great, solid base Newcastle are building off. Offensively, not quite there at the moment, though. Callum Wilson has been good, scored a great goal against Spurs, but no Isak, no Son Maximan. They lose a little bit of magic not having those players going forward. So they're solid and just under spectacular at this moment in time, Newcastle. But no defeats all season at home. 3 wins, 3 draws. Won the last 2 in very different ways. The Everton game was first goal wins it, which they did. The Brentford game was a walloping. All sorts of good stuff about Newcastle right now. And I don't see anything other in this game than a Newcastle win because of how good that home form has been. It's worth noting for Aston Villa, Unai Emery's not going to be the actual manager for this game because the UK, you may know this or not, did this really dumb thing called Brexit. And because of that, foreigners have now got to get a work experience visa to work in the United Kingdom. So we don't have like free movement anymore, free movement to work in other countries. So, and that counts for people coming to the UK as well. So he's got to get a work permit. He will get a work permit. But last I checked, he hadn't got that work permit as yet. So, I've forgotten his name. Aaron Danks, who was in charge for the big win over Brentford, will still be in charge. Though I'm sure he's been having an unofficial phone call with Unai. But look, I still think Villa are a pretty poor team. I think the players are defensively not particularly good. I'm not impressed by Coutinho or Buendia. I think Danny Ings looked quite sharp against Brentford, but that's the only positive I'll really say. I don't think Leon Bailey is a quality player in the Premier League, despite his decent showing that day. So I think Villa, having not won away from home all season, don't suddenly win this particular game. I would go Newcastle. Newcastle win by scoring 2 goals or more, and Aston Villa do not score in this game. Comfortable Newcastle victory against what is a still poor Aston Villa.
Good odds as well. If we back Newcastle, we have an interesting comment. Harry Doherty is telling us cards in this game. Paul Tierney loves showing cards, no? And I was checking the stats we have in Oddspedia about the referee, and indeed, Tierney is the referee averaging more cards per game, 4.4, together with Craig Pawson, so it could be an option to bet on cards. And now that you mentioned Brexit, every time we talk, Tom, you have a new prime minister or a new king. This is so exciting. Every time we speak with you, there is something new in
the king's
country.
always from the same family and the prime minister's always from the same party, so nothing really changes.
Next game, Fulham Everton. What a season Fulham are doing. 7th in the standings, growing and growing. Always Mitrovic, anytime scorer. Tom is telling you, and he's always right. Another goal in the last game at Craven Cottage, only 1 defeat this season. And we know that Everton, is true that they beat Crystal Palace in the last game, but away, usually they are kind of awful.
Yeah, look, again, I'm doing the same bet again this week. It's worked out for me most weeks this season. 9 goals for Mitrovic in, I think, the 10 games he's played. So Fulham will score at least 1 in this game, and it will be scored by Alexander Mitrovic. Look for the penalty market as well. They've won a couple this season. Have Fulham. And I think that with Mitrovic in the team, they're a completely different team. He continues these stunning virtuoso performances that's lifting a relatively average team to higher heights. Harrison Reed and Paulinho in central midfield also been very impressive. Paulinho in central midfield leads a lot of stats in terms of ball recoveries and tackles and ground covered. So he's been really, really impressive alongside Reed in that central midfield. And their home record is very, very good at the moment. It's weird considering the fact that 1/4 of Craven Cottage remains closed. One of the stands is still not open. That brilliant Riverside stand they've been building for a couple of years. So it's incredible they've been able to maintain an atmosphere and a positivity around the place. But 3 victories, 2 draws, 1 loss. That loss coming in that weird game against Newcastle when Chalobah got sent off after 10 minutes, whatever it was. So I would bank on the home form here for Fulham. I think they've shown they can take anyone on at Craven Cottage this season, and they've got one of the best strikers in the league. If you've got that, you can and likely will stay in the division. For Everton, only 1 away win this season. That was against Southampton. I'll tell you how this game goes almost exactly. I would look at the corners market here for Fulham. I'd look above 10 corners. I'd be looking at the shots market for Fulham, striking shots from outside the area, above 15 shots in the game. I would double it up with Mitrovic scoring and potentially winning a penalty. And the only thing I feel really confident on is that Everton aren't going to score because they don't get forward. They don't try and get forward. They're a very, very risk-averse team. Frank Lampard will go into this game to get a 0-0 draw. I don't think he gets one. Fulham win without conceding, and all the stats are in their favour.
All right. Many people are going for both teams to score for this game. In Tom's opinion, this is a no because Everton won't score in Craven Cottage. Next game, last one we have on Saturday, Liverpool Leeds. I read the other day a tweet that Liverpool is working for the planet, no? Stealing points to the city to give it to the Forest after their defeat against Nottingham Forest. And I thought it was kind of funny, that tweet, but they were able at least to bounce back in the Champions League, beating Ajax. Now, time to go back to Anfield, where they've been strong. They beat City, they beat West Ham recently there, and Leeds, Tom, they are in a bad position right now.
Yeah, briefly on Liverpool. Look, there's not much more I can add to that, really. I think that everyone knows at this point what Liverpool are all about. They have a bunch of injuries at this moment in time. No Luis Diaz, no Joel Matip, no Naby Keita, no Thiago. Henderson likely out. Arthur Melo apparently was signed. I've not seen him yet. And Diogo Jota is missing as well. So there's always 7 or 8 injuries with Liverpool. But the good news for them is that Darwin Núñez has started scoring. I think he scored in all of his last 5 games, bar the Forest match. In Liverpool's last few games, I mean, Núñez has been on the score sheet, so look out for Darwin Núñez to score. I think his winning header against West Ham a couple of weeks ago was very impressive. And if fit, he should be fit. I think he could be a difference maker in this game. Mo Salah not quite hit the heights as yet, but I think if Darwin Núñez is there, they can maybe look to a more 3 up front, push Salah back out to the wing. I don't think central striker worked for him at all at the City ground against Forest last week. So there's issues with Liverpool, but they're still big favourites in this game. Why? Because they're at home. And why? Because Leeds are one of the worst teams in the division at this moment in time. Just 1 point on the road all season, just 1 point in their last 5 Premier League games. That was the draw against Aston Villa at Ellen Road. And they give up so much. They give up so many chances. Like they zonal mark, which allowed Fulham to score last week at Ellen Road. They run everywhere, but don't seem to have much of a formation. And in Patrick Bamford, they've got a striker desperately off form. I have been impressed by Sinistera. I have been impressed by Brendan Aronson, but I don't think as a team, as a unit, it works right now. And Leeds are desperate to get to the World Cup. Jesse Marsch is desperate to get through the next couple of games, maybe pick up 2 draws, get to 11, 12 points, and then just have a big old rethink about what they're doing. Because at the moment, Leeds are lambs to the slaughter. They are the team you want to play maybe more than anyone else. And in this game, you know, West Ham went to Anfield recently to Liverpool, and they went very pragmatic and probably should have drawn the game. And I think that's the blueprint right now against Liverpool. And Leeds won't do that. Leeds are going to be just charging around, trying to outrun, outmaneuver, outpass, and outwork Liverpool. And I'm not sure Leeds are as fit as they were under Bielsa or as good as they were at their very best under Bielsa. This looks like a very different sort of team trying to recapture some of the old magic. And I think Liverpool are going to stuff them, quite frankly. I think Liverpool are going to score in both halves. I would go for an Asian handicap here of minus 2.5. I might even look at minus 3.5. I'd certainly double it up with Darwin Núñez to score. Liverpool win. Liverpool win both halves. Liverpool have over 20 shots in this game. And I just don't see any scenario where Leeds are even in this match, despite that recent record of Liverpool conceding early goals in so many games. I don't think it happens here. Go Liverpool. Go big.
All right, easy victory. We are seeing right now the Asian handicap markets. Last season was a 6-0 for Liverpool against Leeds, so perhaps we see something similar. This one is a strange Darwin Núñez, no? Because he scored, for instance, against Ajax a good header, and before he missed a clear chance, so it's kind of a hit and miss, but with a lot of potential for sure, Darwin Núñez. And we have 2 more games on Sunday. Arsenal Forest, top of the table. Arsenal defeat against PSV in the midweek, dropping points against Southampton in the previous weekend. And Forest, top of the table, but they beat Liverpool in the last game. They are still alive. Comfortable victory for Arsenal, bouncing back after these 2 bad results in a row?
I think so. Look, Arsenal have had a little blip, but I mean a real little blip. They should have beaten Southampton. I think a very lenient referee helped Southampton out on the day, and Arsenal were a bit profligate in taking the second chance that would have won them the game. There are some concerns in terms of the first team that has been so strong. Are a couple players just flagging from their best from the first few weeks of this season? The continued absence of Alexander Zinchenko has been massive. I think that he's been such a crucial component to what they have done. I think him not being available for a couple of weeks has been an issue. I don't think Kieran Tierney playing at fullback brings the same thing. Good player, but doesn't bring the same complete footballer ethic to this Arsenal team. Plus, Gabriel Jesus has just gone a little bit quiet in front of goal over the last couple of weeks. So there are some concerns here, but nothing particularly massive. And look, I know Forest beat Liverpool, right? I know they beat them, but they're not good. They're not a good team. They're a hard-working team, and I admire the fact that they have now discovered a way to play. It looks like the team is a bit more set. Really impressed by the work rate of Ryan Yates in midfield, Remo Freuler in midfield. Been impressed at times by 1 or 2 of the front 3. Brennan Johnson, though he's dropped out the last couple of weeks. Jesse Lingard having a little bit of impact in games. Good to see him play a Awoniyi in the last game because he needed a goal scorer. They can't just keep playing 3 midfielders up front in every game. But I think that's what they'll revert to in this one. And look, they're going to go into a game at Emirates Stadium with Steve Cook and Scott McKenna at centre-half. I want to be generous, but they're not great. I mean, Steve Cook last he was in the Premier League with Bournemouth 3 years ago looked spent. You know, he looks like a drunk uncle at a wedding. Why is he playing Premier League football at Anfield? It's bizarre. But anyway, it's by the by. I think that no chance for Forest in this game. No goals for Forest in this game. The odds reflect that at 1.24. So what do we do? Well, I think we've got to double it up with a bunch of Arsenal stats. I think Arsenal are going to win this by at least 4-0. I think they'll thrash them. I would suggest going for a minus 2.5 Asian handicap. That's 3-0. But I would also be looking at more adventurous markets. I'd be looking as well at Jesus to return to form. Jesus to have over 3 shots in this game and to score at least 1 goal. Arsenal to win both halves. Arsenal to win comfortably. Arsenal to win without conceding. Look at the shots market too. I'd suggest there's going to be over 25 shots for Arsenal in this match.
All right, Arsenal to win comfortably. We have Asa telling us Arsenal to win 3-0, for instance. Jesus to score for Viper. Arsenal are dangerous at home. Handicap minus 2.5 for Corello. So Arsenal. Perhaps we disagree a little bit more in the next one, last one, perhaps the best one. Man United. West Ham, after the draw against Chelsea, you mentioned that the Red Devils deserve to win that game. They beat Spurs the last time they played at home. But West Ham are also getting their results. They are not anymore in danger, looking down at the bottom 3. David Moyes coming back to Old Trafford. Are you hopeful for your West Ham to get a point at least?
No, not really. No? Look, I think Man United have been a lot better. You know, everyone can see it. Everyone can see the improvement. Everyone can see the defensive solidity. I know Varane is out, but I think Lindelof is an adequate temporary replacement to play alongside Martinez at centre-half. I think Luke Shaw has looked back to his best. I think Diogo Dalot looks good at right-back. Casemiro. I saw some bizarre statement a couple of weeks ago that people thought it was a bad signing. No one thought it was a bad signing in terms of his quality. They questioned the fee and his age and the direction of the club. Sure, they're legitimate conversations, but no one suggested that Casemiro couldn't play in the Premier League. I'm not sure I saw that once from anybody. So it's a weird thing that's suddenly getting thrown back in people's faces because like no one said it. But he was great, I thought, at Stamford Bridge on last weekend. Anthony has been fabulous since coming to the Premier League, though maybe drop out the bizarre helicopter skill for this weekend. Didn't really make a great deal of sense. Not sure what the point of it is. I'm sure he enjoyed it, though. The issue is who's going to play up front. Rashford remains not a striker. He's never been a striker. I'd like to see Rashford back out on the left wing where he looks at his best. Jadon Sancho has been the only player who's not really improved under this particular manager. An outside chance that Anthony Martial might come back in this game. If he does, I'd expect that to happen. If not, the spectre of Cristiano Ronaldo continues to hover over the Premier League. At home, they've been pretty decent. 3 victories in their last 4. The draw coming in that game against Newcastle, where they had the chances to win it. And I can only see them winning here. The other part of that is that West Ham, they're having an okay season now. It's not been as good as last season. That they're still continuing to recover from the dreadful start they've had. But away from home, just 1 win. That was the victory against Aston Villa. Played well against Liverpool. Should have drawn. They lost. Should have thrashed Southampton. They only drew 1-1 in that game. Should have got a draw against Everton. Lost it. Should have got a draw against Chelsea. Lost it. They keep getting 1 rung below what they should be getting in all these games. So what David Moyes will do, that he's done in 69 games as a manager at what we used to think of as the top 4 and never won, which is low block, defend deep, don't be ambitious, keep the game tight, and then concede a goal in the last 10 minutes and lose 1-0. It's exactly what happened in this game last year. It's exactly what happens in every game David Moyes has against these teams. I love David Moyes. He's done a lot for West Ham. Superb manager. Hope he stays for a long time. But these games are such a massive failure of his coaching career to have not won one of them away from home. I think a draw is not out of the question if it's goalless. But I can only see Man United doing to West Ham what all the top teams do against West Ham. It'll be level, long, and late in this game. I might even say it's still 0-0 after 80 minutes. Then Manchester United win. They may well score 2 goals in that time. But West Ham do not score. Man United do win. I think it will be not particularly thrilling. I don't expect a great shot count. I might be looking at the West Ham bookings market, a 5 or above, with Thomas Soucek, Declan Rice, and Flynn Downs getting stuck in. But I'd certainly be going at Man United win with the goals coming late.
All right. For Mikel, United to win is good enough. 1.77. United to win and under 3.5, as Tom is saying, for Apkai. And hello to our friend from Greece, Onoifros. West Ham can win. Well, let's see if they can or they cannot. Tom is saying no, they cannot.
I wouldn't waste your money on that.
Well, Tom, which one is your safe bet, your preferred bet for this weekend?
Yeah, safe bet this weekend is just going to be Arsenal to win against Nottingham Forest. As we want to make it a safe bet, we want to make sure it happens. It's the kind of bet you can lump your money on this weekend, and I can't see any scenario where Forest get something against Arsenal. So Arsenal win.
All right. We've seen many good odds in this weekend, by the way, for the favorites. Around 2.3 is good enough. So let's spice it up with your ACCA.
So my ACCA is a treble this week. I'm getting a bit annoyed on the trebles because 2 or 3 keep coming in and something anomalous is happening in the third game. It's getting quite frustrating. So this week, I'm going a bit wild, but I see these things happening. So they're not all results. Man United will win, but they will not concede a goal in that game. Arsenal were going to win against Forest, which is my safe bet, but add the minus 2.5 handicap I mentioned in the preview and combine that with Chelsea-Brighton. Forget the result, but go under 2.5 goals in the game. That comes out at around 12-1.
This is risky. You like to play offensive football, Tom? Always attacking. Thank you, Tom. As always, thanks everyone for watching us, for following us. Remember, of course, press the like and subscribe. And Tom, see you next week then. Good luck. Bye-bye.